Hi team, and welcome back to the Radical Rundown. My name is Bryan Buckosh, Core Design Engineer for Brunswick Bowling, and today we're taking a look at the newest Pro Performance core from the Radical lineup. It is the ZigZag. Now undrilled, the ZigZag has some moderate numbers with an RG of 250, an intermediate differential of 015, and a total differential of 045. These are pretty unique numbers in the current asymmetrical lineup for Radical. All of the strong asymmetrical Pro Performance cores currently have high differentials of 051 and higher, so having a ball with an 045 undrilled differential means that you're going to have less total flare potential, and this ball should be easier down the lane and more usable and more versatile on multiple conditions for multiple players. Now, of course, at Radical, the drilled numbers are really what we're paying attention to here, and as you can see, even though the numbers are fairly modest undrilled, this core is very unique in shape, and it's going to transform itself depending on the layout that you choose. I was talking with our resident core designer for Radical, Steve Freshour, and we were joking that this core is basically all moment arms, because it's got these front protrusions, noses as we've been calling them in the katana lineup, and it's got these intermediate axes knobs as well as these top and bottom knobs, and all told this core makes what looks like a toy jack shape, but more specifically, these are actually the moment arms of what make a gyroscope. Now the interesting thing about this core is that the intermediate knobs are pressed really far out, but more than that, they're also built up a lot further than any of the other cores in the current Radical lineup. You notice that this has similar properties to something like a katana core, which has a front nose and side moment arms as well, but none of them are as beefy as these moment arms here. This all makes gyroscopic inertia that helps the ball retain tilt and rotation a little bit longer and then bleed it off at a more consistent rate. Because of this, this core is going to have a very blendy and continuous motion for an asymmetrical ball, where other asymmetrical balls can make one move in the mid lane or the late mid lane and then get a little forward at the back of the lane. You've seen in all the testing videos as well as the throwbot video that this ball has great continuation for an asymmetrical ball. The after drilling numbers on this ball are actually really unique. Because these knobs and moment arms are pressed so far out toward the cover of the ball, that means that when you drill into them, you're really going to affect the post-drilled numbers of this ball. If you do a standard pin-up layout for the most flare potential, you're going to end up with the fingers underneath the pin in a standard pin-up position with the thumb in the area of the mass bias. When you drill the thumb through this front protrusion, through this front moment arm, you're going to remove a lot of this material, narrowing up the core substantially, blowing up the intermediate differential. Remember, undrilled this ball is only a 15 intermediate differential, which is pretty moderate. But after drilling with a max flare pinup layout, you can get up to 30 points of intermediate differential using the max flip layout. So that's doubling the intermediate differential. That transforms this ball into a monster with a much greater response to friction and a much shorter hook window. With this higher intermediate differential, you're going to be able to open up your angles and get the ball to recover with a shorter hook window and a quick response to friction down lane. Conversely, if you choose a smoother layout, example is the smooth layout option on the Radical drilling sheet, you're going to have a much shorter drilling angle. Example on the sheet is 20 degrees. That's going to swing the mass bias out and put your thumb relatively in between the moment arms on this core. What that's going to do is miss most of the inner core, putting the thumb right between in the compound material. With most of this core intact, you're going to leave the moderate intermediate differential intact, and you're going to end up with actually even less intermediate differential than the undrilled core, resulting in about 12 points of intermediate differential. Compared to the 30 that you get when you drill right into the front of the knob of this core, that 18-point swing in intermediate differential makes a huge difference to the ball motion at the back of the lane. You're going to see a slower transitioning ball in terms of response to friction and a much rounder, more gradual arcing motion. Simply put, the layout selection on this core is going to give you the maximum versatility for layout options and motion shapes depending on the layout that you select. So that's all the information we have on the brand new Pro Performance core in the Radical lineup. It is the ZigZag. They're available now in pro shops everywhere. Make sure you swing by and pick one up. While you're here, make sure you like Radical on Facebook and YouTube so you don't miss any of the other Radical rundowns. I'm Bryan Buckosh, and this has been the Radical Rundown.